There are dozens of mental disorders, and most of what you think you know is wrong. By the end of this, you will recognize them in films, in strangers, maybe in people you love. Let us start with the one everybody talks about and almost nobody gets right. Autism. Why is it never just autism? Because no two autistic people are the same. There is no fixed checklist of symptoms. That is exactly why we call it a spectrum. It can be someone who does not read body language or jokes, who needs predictability, has intense interests, and reacts strongly to sound, light, or touch. It can be a brilliant mathematician who needs constant support to get through the day, but it can also be your grandfather who loves fishing and hates change, the friend who talks about K-pop for hours, the mom who keeps the exact same routine every single day and cannot stand surprises. Autism is not a missing piece. It is a different way of experiencing the world, a different sensitivity, a different reading of what people actually mean. And often you cannot see it at all. Many learn to mask their symptoms, hiding them in public. They pay for it with crushing mental exhaustion. It is not caused by vaccines or diet. People are born this way, and support should help them grow their own way, not fake being normal. Now ADHD. In most people's heads, it is still one image, a boy who cannot sit still, interrupts, gets bad grades. Then comes the shock that the quietest girl in class can have it too. She seems lost in thought, forgets the day of the week, but on her favorite topic she turns lightning fast. Or it is a dad who zones out at the TV, then suddenly renovates the kitchen at midnight, living in all or nothing mode. The core is not an inability to focus. It is trouble holding attention on boring, routine tasks. Then comes hyper-focus on something exciting, locked in for hours, almost out of the person's control. To diagnose it, you also need impulsivity or hyperactivity, sometimes obvious, like outbursts or never sitting still, sometimes hidden in constant fidgeting, doodling, racing thoughts, blurting out answers, talking too much. Add time blindness, weak executive function, and a painful sensitivity to rejection. This is not laziness. It is a built-in difference in how attention and drive are regulated, and you do not grow out of it. The symptoms just change with age. You cannot cure it, but you can cut the cost with strategies, support, and when needed, medication. Now let us speed through the rest of this block. Intellectual developmental disorders combined lower intellectual functioning with trouble being independent in everyday life, present from childhood. Severity is measured by how much help someone really needs, not just an IQ number. With the right support, the start line can simply be different. There are also speech and language disorders and learning disorders like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia, which affects movement and coordination. And there are tics, involuntary movements or sounds like blinking, throat clearing, head jerks. Tics can last a moment or stay for years when both motor and vocal tics show up together. That is Tourette syndrome. Now buckle up, because the next one carries more myths than almost any other. Schizophrenia. One key feature is psychosis, a serious break in testing reality. A person can be deeply convinced of something that simply is not true. A partner cheating, a roommate stealing, secret services listening in. Then come delusions. I am the chosen one. Everyone can hear my thoughts, plus hallucinations, most often voices, and the feeling that someone else controls your thoughts and actions. But one episode is not enough to diagnose it. Symptoms must last about a month, because a single sharp break with reality can pass with no lasting damage. That is called an acute or transient psychotic disorder. Here is the part people miss. Beyond voices and delusions come the negative symptoms. No energy, flat emotions, almost no speech, withdrawal, no pleasure in anything. With each relapse, memory and thinking get worse, and that is the real driver of disability. Close to it sits delusional disorder, where the main problem is fixed false beliefs, like being cheated on or hated, while the person otherwise functions fairly well. And schizoaffective disorder, where psychosis mixes with episodes of mania. So what is mania? Usually at least a week of abnormally high mood, euphoria, or irritability, with too much energy, racing thoughts, grand beliefs, barely any need for sleep, and risky behavior. Often it ends in hospitalization. When it is milder and shorter, we call it hypomania. When mania fades, some return to normal, but far more often a crash follows. At least 2 weeks of depression, from I can do anything to I have no strength. and my life has no meaning. Then it repeats, up, down, up again. That is bipolar disorder, and the most diagnosed disorder on the planet is the next one. But how is it different from ordinary sadness? Depression is a drop in mood that seriously blocks daily life. Often there is no clear cause, or it is way out of proportion. Trouble concentrating, slowed movement, nothing brings joy, tension, or just emotional emptiness. Add problems with sleep and appetite, guilt, and suicidal thoughts. In severe episodes, even psychotic symptoms appear. There is also a high-risk window few people talk about: pregnancy and the time after birth. Shifting hormones, no sleep and stress raise the danger. The mildest and best known is the baby blues, the short dip in mood. There is also postnatal depression or anxiety, and the rare but serious postpartum psychosis. Anyone in a serious accident or life-threatening event remembers it for a long time. But not everyone gets PTSD. That is reliving the trauma through vivid, intrusive memories or nightmares, with a wave of fear and terror. It comes with avoiding anything that reminds you of the event, plus long-lasting high alert and anxiety weeks after it happened. And what triggers it is deeply personal. A child seeing a brutal game scene, an older person losing a spouse. Then there is complex PTSD. People trapped for years in violent homes, relationships, or institutions may have no single event to point to, yet still carry trauma. They struggle to regulate emotions, see themselves harshly, and find relationships hard. And grief. There is no correct length, and it looks different for everyone. But if after 6 months a person stays frozen in loss, thinking about the dead almost all day, life clearly broken and not improving, we call it prolonged grief disorder. So when does disliking spiders or worrying too much become an anxiety disorder? When the brain sees danger where there is none, and you start building your life around avoiding it, constantly scanning for threats. What if something bad happens right now? When that fear attaches to everything, it is generalized anxiety disorder. You worry about work, money, health, family, the future. You know it is too much but cannot stop. At night, you build lists of disasters instead of sleeping. Panic disorder is like a broken smoke alarm. Nothing is happening. Then suddenly your heart pounds. You cannot breathe. The room spins, and you think this is a heart attack. I am going to die. The attack lasts minutes, but the fear of the next one shrinks your world. Agoraphobia is fear of places that are hard to escape or get help in. Crowds, buses, queues, malls, bridges, even leaving the house alone. Your whole day starts bending around safe routes and the dread of going outside at all. A specific phobia is intense fear of one thing: spiders, blood, needles, flying, heights. The person knows it is irrational, but the body fires a full alarm. Tension, sweat, run, or freeze. Avoiding it feels good short-term and locks the phobia in long-term. Social anxiety is not shyness. It is a strong fear of being judged. I will embarrass myself, sound stupid, get mocked. So people avoid presentations, meetings, calls, dates, even shopping. In kids, it can show as selective mutism. A child who talks non-stop at home goes completely silent at school because fear physically locks the words in their throat. There is also separation anxiety, once tied only to children, but real in adults too. Not simple missing someone, but paralyzing panic when a loved one is out of sight. Now obsessive-compulsive and related disorders, a kind of mental loop, not loving tidiness, but repeating thoughts, images, or urges that barge in uninvited, create tension, and demand a response. Checking, washing, counting, arranging brings relief, so the brain learns to repeat it. The flagship is OCD. You need both obsessions and compulsions locked together. What if I hurt someone? What if I spread germs? Then the ritual. I wash, I check, I count. Not because I like it, but to crush tension that otherwise grows unbearable. The same loop drives body dysmorphic disorder, where someone is consumed by a flaw others barely see, endlessly checking mirrors, comparing, masking, even chasing surgery. And health anxiety, where every twinge sends you Googling symptoms, taking your pulse, begging for reassurance that never lasts. Hoarding disorder is a struggle to throw things away, plus overbuying, sure that it will be useful, or that throwing it out means regret. Objects swallow shelves, rooms, then the whole home. Behind it is real panic at the thought of letting go. There are also body-focused behaviors, trichotillomania, pulling out hair, and dermatillomania, picking skin. For some, it regulates emotion, but shame and hiding follow. It is not a bad habit you can just swap. It is an impulse control problem under stress and overwhelm. Dissociative disorders are the brain's emergency mode. When experience is too much, the link between mind, body, and reality starts to fail. The person is awake and functioning, but loses continuity, memory, the sense of self, contact with their own body. In depersonalization, you feel detached, watching yourself from outside. These are my hands, but not mine. In derealization, the world feels like a film. In dissociative amnesia, someone loses memory of key personal facts from a time of stress or trauma. Extremely rare, but everywhere in movies, is dissociative identity disorder. Many identities in one body. And when someone loses their own identity and feels replaced by another, like an evil spirit, that is a trance disorder. Eating disorders are not bad habits or hard dieting. They are a pathological relationship with food, body, and self that takes over life. The most diagnosed is binge eating disorder, repeated loss of control over how much you eat, followed by shame and secret eating. Anorexia starts in the head, not on the scale. The base is a distorted body image. People are convinced they weigh too much, even facing doctors, loved ones, even death. It is a desperate attempt to fully control at least one part of life. Rigid food rules, obsessive thoughts, skipping meals, over-exercising, sometimes to collapse, sometimes to death. Bulimia ties binge episodes to what comes after. Vomiting, laxatives, fasting, all driven by fear of gaining weight and intense tension around food and body. Sometimes eating is restricted not from fear of weight, but fear of the act itself, or sensory aversion. That is ARFID. The person may even want to gain weight, but fears choking or cannot tolerate textures, so they eat only a few safe foods. There is also pica, eating non-food things like chalk, soil, or paper. Addiction is not weak will or a free choice. The brain learns one very effective way to ease tension, and a substance or behavior becomes the main source of relief, then the center of life. It starts as I want and slides into I have to. Tolerance rises, stopping hurts, and from outside it looks like stubbornness. Inside it is compulsion. I promise to quit, I make a plan, then I go back despite the damage. And yes, gambling and gaming can be addictions too, with lost control and continued use despite harm. There are also disorders of bodily distress, where someone feels real pain or dizziness, and because it repeats, reshapes their whole life to avoid harm, even when every test is normal. And body integrity dysphoria, a deep sense that a part of the body is not truly theirs. Personality disorders are not insults for an ex. They mean a rigid, years-long pattern of experiencing yourself and others that damages relationships and life. Modern classification drops the old labels and instead describes traits like negative emotions, detachment, defiance, disinhibition, or need for control. Conduct and dissocial patterns are not just teenage rebellion, but repeated violation of rules, boundaries, and other people's rights. What we call sociopathy is the dissocial personality pattern, emotional coldness, low empathy, using people, a stable lifelong style, not a single outburst. Impulse control disorders mean repeatedly losing to an urge, despite knowing the cost, like kleptomania or pyromania, where the act itself releases tension. This is only the lion's share, not the whole catalog. If any of this feels close to home, do not self-diagnose. Talk to a professional. They are there to help.